Fuck.
Wow.
Fucking language too.
Wow.
We're already
My
live.
poor little virgin ears.
Smeggy,
What
go
the
for it.
hell? You guys all
you're
suck.
virgin, all right.
Everyone
Just
shut up. Shut
totally
up.
ruined his
Shut your
intro.
faces. Shut your dirty, stupid faces. Shut up.
I'll
Shut
edit this out.
Okay.
up. Everybody. Shall not be infringed.
He's stealing my tagline already.
Yeah.
Wow.
Be
Important
glad you
on a
got
day
your
like
intro
today.
back.
Well, yeah. Well, no, I was. Well, yeah, whatever. All right, welcome all to Hit or Miss. I'm Night Strike. Thanks, Smeggy, for his doopa-doop-doobers. I think that's what we're calling them now.
Musical stylings.
Yes,
It's more of
those.
an improvisational jazz session, actually. But
Yeah, well, still. Anyways, I got a motley crew on the panel tonight. We've got more invites out, so people who jump in will jump in. People who don't will not.
I am not molting, sir.
You're a motley crew. I didn't say you were a molting crew. Open your freaking ears. Also, guys, please refrain from cursing so much on Hit or Miss. I'm trying to clean up the act a bit.
Okay.
Basically,
know.
what you're saying is you're trying not to get a strike against you.
Hey, it doesn't matter at this point. They already took my advertising away when I was at $97.
oh,
I want to
Dude.
curse, but I'm not going to because you know what? I'm just going to go down and get another.
Don't worry. We'll all curse for you.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
fucking welcome.
No, not on Hit or Miss. You won't. I'll boot your ass.
oh my!
Yay, boots! What kind of boot?
The
The
DOS
ones that are
boot.
the kind that are made for walking.
What happened to
Dawson.
the cleaner, greener
Dawson.
Night Strike we just had?
The cleaner, nicer Night Strike.
Well,
Our
I
little
guess
boy is all
Smeggy's
grown
not-
up now.
Smeggy hasn't been around enough to make Night Strike happy.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
guess,
don't want to know what that entails.
yeah,
That
exactly.
is not what you think, and get your minds out of the gutter.
You started it.
You said
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I missed this whole all of us talking at the same time thing. I forgot how that
Welcome
went.
back.
Let's all talk at the same time. Let's all talk at the same time.
Oh, we got to introduce him. This is Biggie.
Okay. All right. So on the panel tonight, we have right now AWAG 1000. Say hello, AWAG.
Hi, my gutter is clogged.
It shows. Well, you do live in
I'm
New
sorry.
Jersey, so
Oh.
that gutter's been clogged for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then we have everyone's favorite afternoon lobby panelist, Sean Ponery.
Oh, hey, thanks. I'm back.
All right. Uh-oh, he's back.
Is your gutter clogged?
And then he is fashionably late for Hit or Miss. He's been gone for a while, but he says he is back. We have the one, the only snowman that will not melt. And even though I told him just because it's yellow, it doesn't make it magic, but he argues otherwise. We have Smeggy42.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? I would also like to point out, I guess I'm not allowed to ever read a news article on this episode again.
Nope.
Oh.
If swearing's out of the books, I'm not allowed to read anti-gun articles.
Ah,
So I guess join me in the Smeggy Cave, where I'll be doing that.
So you're leaving Hit or Miss?
Oh.
No, I'm not. But if you don't want swearing, I can't read gun articles. So I will read gun articles on the Smeggy Cave, and everyone's welcome to join in my rantings.
You usually call them dumb.
no, he calls them F's.
Oh,
Yeah, there's usually a lot of not nice words.
All right, and we have the refined European himself. We have the crazy Scotsman.
What's up, man? Appreciate the invite.
No problem.
I am a much balder. I think I lost about 10 pounds last night. I just off my face.
Did you shave it all off?
We
Throw
hit the
that in
goal last
stones.
night. I did a chat last night, and I kept that shit going until we hit the goal of 14,000, and we right now are currently at 15,000 and some change. But I shaved it all off live last night on chat.
Well, you know what I'm going to tell you, Scotsman. Turn the camera on. We need to see this.
No, fuck that.
Come on. Come
would
on.
be considered nudity in Scotland.
Yes, there's nothing like a shorn scrotum. I hear it's quite nice. Yes.
It's breathtaking. I suggest you try it.
All
I
right,
will,
Doc.
I will tell you this. I went and picked up some beers earlier on the way home from work, and amazingly, I did not get carded, which I was very surprised.
Yeah, I don't get carded either.
He
whenever I
beat
go to
the
buy stuff.
system.
Oh,
Anyways.
you know the saying goes, beer helps make your beard grow faster.
This is
Sir-
true.
Certainly last but not least, the one who always shows up for hit or miss, Travis P11.
Hey man, what can I say? I appreciate the invite, guys. Shameless plug as usual. Check out Caliber Corner live Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Central Time. Right, we're going to be talking about. We'll be going live again this Saturday, and also check out my channel on YouTube, Travis P11. It's good stuff, man.
All right, awesome. So who do we have out there on the Gun Channel side? On the Gun Channel side, we have Scott. We've got Josh Aguirre. We got Pobbs. Sean Ponery's out there. We got Cycle Camp, Robbie, Moon Food, and Rob Cromwell out there on the Gun Channel side. On the YouTube side, Lord knows who we have. We have Matthew Johnson, Kalashnikov 108, Jonathan Fira, Scotsman is out there as well, AC97, Jumpy Killer is out there. Travis is out there as well. Travis is everywhere. We got Rick's Life as I See It out there. Rick, I sent you an email. Did you not get it? AWAG is out there too. Guess what? Gary's out there. And that's all we have right now watching. But that's okay. We will power on through and continue on. So I don't have a topic tonight,
Hang
guys.
on. For the record, that's not all that's out watching. Those are just the only people that have said stuff on YouTube.
Right. And if they don't comment on the YouTubes or on the Gun Channel side or whatnot, I can't see them. So, you know what? That's not my fault.
If you don't comment, you don't get a shout out.
Damn, man, this new cleaner, greener thing, I missed a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, to make a joke at my expense. No thanks.
Yay, gutter!
Well, since you said you didn't have a topic, I was going to say, if you have teats, I'm here to calm them.
No.
I said the green version of that.
Have you ever thought that you could just like hear an aneurysm starting? I don't know how they're formed, but I think we just heard one. It's just
Teats
starting to
are
grow.
socially acceptable words.
Science.
Thank you.
Sean?
Science.
I want to talk about what Trump did today.
Okay.
All right. You know what? I don't have any topics tonight, so we're going to talk about just whatever the hell that's been going on in the news. I apologize in advance if it gets long-winded, and if I can't stomach it, I may go get a beer or some alcohol of whatever I've got downstairs in the in the alcohol cabinet. So just be forewarned. If I disappear for like 5 or 10 minutes, that's why.
Maybe I don't alcohol. No, I was going to actually be the calming voice of what Trump did today, actually. You know how we always talk about the NRA is big and
Well,
it's our
hang
punching
on.
bag for these kinds of things? Am I going to get my point out? Or
No, will you at least summarize what actually happened? Because some people might just be like, what the heck are you talking about? So at least
All
do
right.
that and then be the calming
Yeah,
voice. please.
insert
All right.
what you're talking about, Willis.
So Trump had a press conference and he said that he signed a memorandum to instruct the Justice Department, namely Attorney General Jeff Sessions, to look into possible regulations for bump fire stocks and rate of fire increasing devices, I guess is the best way to put it. And a lot of people are really upset about this because it's way too open for interpretation. Rate increasing devices could be anything for as simple as a trigger job, for instance, or your bump stocks or trigger cranks, or just, you can fill in the blank of what you think it is. Point being is if you listen very carefully to his wording, he chose his words very carefully, and he likes to do things that he can easily take back. And, we always say that even if we disagree with the NRA at times, they're the biggest entity out there, and they're the punching bag for us. They're the lobby group. They take the hits, right? And I think what the president just did, possibly, is once again turn the ATF into the administration's version of a punching bag. Because what he's going to do is he's going to have Jeff Sessions look into this, right? And who's he going to turn to? The technology department at the ATF. He chose the words, does it convert it into a machine gun? The ATF will turn around and tell Jeff Sessions, listen, we've already looked into this. We've already told you that it's mechanically impossible to convert a semi-automatic rifle into a machine gun by its definition. You know, and they'll say, okay, that's all I needed to hear. He'll report back to the president saying, it does not turn it into a machine gun. We can't ban that on that premise. Thanks, but no thanks. And what that does is the president passed the buck, the heat off himself because he was pressured to do something, right? And then he turns around and Sessions says, I took it to the ATF, so he took it off of himself. The ATF is a large, nameless individual entity because there's a bunch of people there, right? And they get to turn into the punching bag. But they're going to be right. They're going to say, it's not a machine gun. And then this whole thing will just disappear. It's Trump's way of doing something, looking like you're doing something, without actually doing something. So that's the positive, hopeful outlook for this. If that's how it plays out, that's the perfect scenario because he looks like he tried. The ATF again looks like the bad guys, but since they're a nameless entity of people, no one person is going to get singled out, you know, as public enemy number one against the public type of a thing. So with any hope, that's how it'll play out in a couple of days. And then we'll get distracted by dim Russians again or something.
Interesting.
That's my theory. I mean, I hope it plays out that way because otherwise everyone who's posting these videos of Trump has just betrayed the Second Amendment would be true. And that's a pretty bitter pill for him to have to swallow come election day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
I-
so
I
here's
pretty
my
much
thing
agree
on
with
it. And sorry, you can.
Let Smeggy go and then AWAG, you'll go.
Okay.
And Red Wings just scored a goal. Woohoo! Anyways, so my thing is, it's kind of similar to Sean's. I never thought about the Attorney General going to the ATF and asking their opinion and then coming back or whatever. But my whole thing was just basically like Trump basically asked someone to do something that's really not in his job description. And so, you know, worst case scenario, the guy's going to be like, yeah, I don't have the authority to do that. And I used the example earlier today of if Trump did a thing that said, hey, Sessions, like, ban waffles. I hate waffles. Sessions' only job is to, like, decide what the federal government prosecutes and what they don't of the existing laws that exist. So if Trump says, hey, I don't like waffles, his only response would be, well, that sucks, but there's no law against waffles, so I can't prosecute someone for eating waffles if there's no law. And then it just goes away. So that's kind of a similar theory that Sean was going with. I hadn't thought about the ATF part of it. But go ahead, AWAG.
I agree with the whole fact that it'll probably end up just essentially dying. This memorandum will end up dying as soon as it gets to like somebody that looks it over and he says that, oh, hey, if this turns it into a machine gun, it does not make it full auto by definition of a machine gun. So you can't go through with it. But on the other hand, I see somebody that has no idea what they're doing or no idea what they're being told to do when it comes to making laws. And if somebody ends up, no, I don't know exactly who ends up doing that, but if they say, oh, a machine gun is a gun that looks scary and has these features, essentially like the 94 assault weapons ban, goes and it could go full tilt one direction or it can go full tilt the other direction. And it's like half of me says that it'll probably end up dying as soon as it gets to somebody who knows somewhat what they're doing, or it can just go balls to the walls crazy real quick.
Yeah.
Can I build off of that a little bit?
Go
Sure.
for it.
All right. So what you're saying makes sense. And the thing is the argument against that has to be, look, you want to ban assault rifles, that's great. Go through my arsenal and show me what an assault rifle is. Because as far as I know, I don't own one by definition. You know, we're doing this by literal definition. Machine gun, assault rifle, it has to be taken that way because laws have to be based off of factual things. And if we say, where's an assault rifle in my arsenal? I don't have one. Just because something is cosmetically similar does not make it the thing you want to make it. And that's the point that we as gun owners have to illustrate. You know, we can't react the way that they react. We can't overreact and get mad and scream and yell. We have to say, look, you want to ban assault rifles? Great, whatever. Look through my stuff and show me where there's an assault rifle. And as soon as they point to an AR, say, where's the select fire?
Yeah, that's
Here's the problem, though.
Excellent point.
They don't want to ban assault rifles. They want to ban assault weapons.
Right.
And we all know what their definition of that is.
Right.
Scary looking.
Right. They want
So
to
your premise is
cosmetic similarities.
true, except if you would have said, you want to ban assault weapons, right? And they'd say, yes. And then you say, look through my arsenal and show me the assault weapons. And they'll look through and they'll point to every AR and every AK, and they'll leave your 1022 alone, and they'll leave your, Mosin alone or whatever. I don't know what you have, whatever. You know, they'll leave all that stuff alone, your bolt actions, your stuff with wood on it, even your semi-auto stuff with wood on it. But they'll point to every AR and every AK, and maybe even the high point carbine, who knows, and say, hey, this is what I'm talking about. And then they'll make a definition that includes those types of things, which is what they did in 94. Now,
Right.
there was another part that I had wanted to mention, because you said something, I forget exactly what you said, but whatever. I remember my rebuttal part of it, and that is that, yes, Trump is trying to, look like he's doing something. And your whole point is basically okay, he's looking like he's trying to do something, but then it ends up he's not going to do something, it's not going to go through, so no harm, no foul. Here's my thing. I do still think it does harm by legitimizing that there is something to do in regards to banning stuff. That is giving the anti-gunners a point of saying, oh, you know what, you're right. We need to ban something. Oh, whoops, I couldn't do it because of a definition, but I still agree with you. We should have banned something. Go ahead and make a law, and then we can ban it. And then they'll be able to make a law that bans bump stocks, and they'll word it in a way that has nothing to do with full auto or machine gun. They'll just say, bump stocks, name them or whatever, things that slide are illegal. And then they'll have a perfect example of, well, now there's a law, and Trump already said he wants to get rid of them, so now he has to enforce this law.
Okay, I see what you're saying, and this is my rebuttal to this. When you go to court, a defense attorney has this thing called, what is it, burden of proof or burden of responsibility, right? So if they go through this and he says, well, look, I did my part, I had them look at it, and they determined that it's still not a machine gun, so I'm sorry. If you think you need to ban something, you're going to have to be more specific because this isn't it. You lost this one, right? That puts burden of responsibility back on the antis to come up with something that actually is sensible, that actually makes sense. We're not going to do their job for them because what they literally did was say it's a machine gun, and we all know it isn't. It's burden of responsibility for their side. If they want the change, they have to come up with the perfect case to get rid of it, and they can't do it because, number one, they don't know what they're talking about. Mechanically, they don't know how they work. So they're going to be floundering for, clarifications and answers. It could take them weeks. It could take them years. Maybe they'll just throw their hands up and go, oh, God damn it. You're trying to split this hair. And then they just look like loons. Burden of proof, burden of responsibility belongs on them. They want the changes. They've got to make the case. When they bring up a bad case that's full of holes and we point out it's full of holes and it gets dropped because it's not legally binding and it's not constitutional, that's our victory. We just take it and move on.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I mean, being naive and a novice at all this gun stuff, what is stopping? Like he told Sessions to do his thing. Sessions goes to the NFA, and what's
ETF.
stopping whatever it is called? Right? What's stopping them from saying no? They're not banned, but they're going to be like silencers. You're going to have to pay a $200 stamp on them.
Okay, so you're asking why they would reclassify something as an NFA item?
Yeah,
That's not what they were asked to do.
but that is what they might. What
That has to be put in a brand new request. What they were asked is the legalities of a device, and then they were asked, does it do this? Not, can we reclassify this? That wasn't part of this request. It's government bureaucracy and the trudging, slow process. They only do what they're asked to do. That's what the ATF has said time and time again. When that technology guy was on IV8888, his channel, he basically said, when you come to the ATF and you put in a formal request, it has to be specific, and that's all we look at. If you have another request, or if you need to resplit that hair, then you have to bring in a brand new request. It's just the way the process works. That's why it's so, quote, ineffective. It's effective in the sense that if you don't get it right the first time, yeah, you can come back, but you get to get back in line in case there's other requests ahead of you.
Right, but that's more like you said, that's more like a request to the technology brands, like, hey, I want to make this thing. Is this okay? To
Right,
speak
but they also
specifically what
review.
Rick was saying though about why not just make it an ATF or an NFA thing?
Yeah.
That is what they're looking at. They're looking at saying, does a bump fire stock classify as, under the NFA a full auto? Here's
Okay.
the problem with specifically the full auto of the NFA.
Yeah.
You can't just pay a $200 tax stamp and then have it, because of the Hughes Amendment of 86, which says you cannot create a new full auto, registered machine gun. So anything after 86 cannot be made. So
Okay,
that's
so
where the
in that
banning part
instance-
comes in. It's not just like a suppressor. It'd be like, yeah, you can call it a suppressor, but you can't make a suppressor past 86. So everything that's past 86 you wouldn't be able to have. That would be the same similarity.
So in that case, what they would do is they would take their already posted and published opinion of the bump stock, because this has been brought up before, and their opinion and formal, I guess, response was, no, it doesn't. So they would just say, why are you asking this again? We already gave you this opinion. It's already been done. It's almost like double jeopardy.
Yeah, but they already opened to public comment and everything that ended in January.
Right.
So they have looked at it again, and they have not released their opinion of that since
A second time.
Of which, by the way, the pro-gun outweighed the anti from the comments.
Oh, by a whole bunch. There were some legitimate anti-gun comments, though. I found that surprising. But what was funny is you could clearly see the people that were being anti-gun, they were sent there by Moms Demand Action, and their words didn't really match like reality. Like they really didn't know what they were talking about.
Well, the whole, let's ban all guns and remove guns from our entire lives and think the world is just going to be so hunky-dory and happy, and, rainbows and teddy bears and candy will rain from the sky. That kind of optimism is stupid. And to expect it out of one country.
Yeah, we should all be way more pessimistic. I agree with you.
You can't say it's stupid.
To expect it from just one country, whereas no other country in the world is like that, is ridiculous.
It's not stupid. It's just unrealistic.
No, I would argue that it is stupid, because
but that's our opinion.
There's a point at being unrealistic and then just being mentally retarded.
Well,
and unfortunately, gun control fits into the whole mentally retarded aspect.
That's bias and that's anger speaking. When you have
that's our night strike.
I know.
Start a new theme.
When you have to defend something with logic and reasoning and no raised voices, you cannot say those things. You have to say it's not possible, or it's not logical, or it's not reasonable.
I'm going to defend Night Strike. Yes, I'm actually going to defend Night Strike. He did not raise his voice.
No, I'm saying I'm just using examples of what you're not supposed to do when you're trying to have a rational argument. The thing is, you have to use their logic against them with a smile on your face. And then that way they look like the loons. They're the ones that get pissed off. When you say something is impossible, like for instance, we had this discussion this morning just after the early watch. The only way you will ever get rid of gun violence is every single firearm in the world has to simultaneously disappear off the face of the earth, and all memory of what they were has to be wiped from humanity. That's the only way you will do it. And it's still not going to solve murders because evil is inherent to all human beings.
Right.
So
That was what I was going to toss in there. Is you still won't get. You could get rid of 100% of gun violence. That still will not get rid of 100% of violence.
Right.
No, I can tell you, like back home, knife crime is ridiculously high.
I heard when they banned firearms in the UK that violent crimes and murders with hatchets, butcher knives, and cleavers more than like tenfold it went up because they didn't have guns anymore. They just used the next thing.
Yeah, no, it's true. And knife crime today is ridiculous.
Look what just happened in China, 4 days ago? What was it, 28 killed and like 100 and something injured from one guy?
I love walking into these liberals, and these liberals fucking start talking about gun control. And I explain to them, like, guys, you got to realize something. You take away the guns, they're still going to kill you.
Well, that's the thing, too. I'm not going to go into that whole story thing that I was trying to tell you guys earlier because it's just obviously going to bore you to tears and it's way too long, right?
Oh, I thought it was interesting. I just didn't realize it was going to take a half hour to read.
It would take, if I read everything that I posted here, I'm going to need at least 10 minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes ain't bad. And just read through the stupid part fast.
Well, all right.
I really liked where you were going with it. That's why we were like, hey, why are you doing this before the show?
I hear you.
We have plenty of time on the show.
All right. Well, if you will grant me the time, I'll go ahead and I'll cover this again. I responded to a post today. It was written by someone named Coralie Larson. And the guy who shared it, he's a bit of an anti. He will discuss with me.
This is the part that takes too much time.
I know, but I have to read that. All right. So the thing is,
go.
Okay, the guy's a bit of an anti, and he posted this, and he will discuss these things with me. So this is what we started with. The article starts off with, one way to stop school shootings is to arm the teachers. This is one of those things that gets thrown out there a lot. This is stupid, aside from the fact that this is not addressing the core issues of gun violence. Now, this is the core issues that this person brought up. Cost. Who's going to pay for it? The district, the state, the feds. Is the teacher responsible for the cost of their own firearms and ammunition? Training. It's expensive. It's intensive. You know, it requires special facilities, a staff. Who's going to pay for that? Liability. What happens if the teacher shoots a person that isn't the shooter? Who's responsible? The teacher, the student, the district, the state. Who's going to pay for that? Psychological effects. You're asking a teacher to kill somebody. You know, you don't want to shoot to injure or wound. You shoot to kill. That right there is a mistake. You can shoot to injure. You can shoot to stop and incapacitate. But this person said you can't. And they said, you use a firearm to kill, period. And since most school shootings are carried out by children, you're literally asking a teacher to kill a child. And then basically they're pointing out, you know, this isn't some kind of soldier, Green Beret, Army Ranger, cop, or whatever. You're asking a 47-year-old woman who teaches English lit to carry a Glock and put 2 rounds in the chest and 1 in the head. And she says, arming teachers is a stupid argument. So my response to this was, to this person and all his readers, I said, look, if you're going to put your emotions aside, I will discuss this logically with you, and I will debunk every one of your points. Cost. What makes you think teachers are not armed already? What made you even think that every teacher in the building has to be? The notion of, quote, the warning signs are just as dangerous as the minefield applies perfectly here. You put out 100 warning signs around the building for every 1 mine in the field. Who's going to take the risk of walking through that field? If an active shooter was dumb enough to ignore the warning signs and walk into a building after all of that, how are they going to know which one's carrying and which one isn't? Is that a risk worth taking for someone trying to rack up a body count? Furthermore, if you want to talk about cost, police trade-ins are a fraction of the cost of a new gun, and they're generally really well maintained by the department armorer. Just look up police trading Glocks, for starters, right? Most police guns aren't even fired. They're issued them, they go to the range, they leave them in their holster day after day after day, they never see action, and then they trade them in, right? So good deals are out there. Training. CHLs, LTCs, whatever you want to call those licenses, they have to undergo classroom instruction. They have to take a practical accuracy test before they're even granted their license. Furthermore, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of police officers and active and retired military all over the nation who would gladly stand in line to voluntarily offer their services to train people in an active shooter situation. If you ask a lot of law enforcement officers what their spouses do for a living, a lot of them are going to tell you that their husbands or wives are teachers. I mean, it's a funny coincidence, but it happens all the time. It's like, so they have a vested interest in protecting their own loved ones just as much as their loved ones have the desire to protect the children that are under their tutelage. I was like, if anything, an armed teacher will make a lockdown, which is the process that they're supposed to already do, infinitely more effective, because what they'll be taught is to take all the kids and move them to the opposite corner of the door, shut the lights off, lock the door, and you stand there with your weapon drawn at the door. You don't go out, you do not engage. Just because a teacher's armed doesn't mean they're supposed to leave their rooms and engage a threat. They're just supposed to sit there at the door and look through the slit, and if that guy stands in front of the door, pop two through the glass. End of story. Or just sit there and wait for the all clear, because every school has a PA system, and you can't avoid that.
Can I add something real quick? Don't engage and don't actively seek out.
Right. Don't look for the fight. Wait for it to come to the door. That's the only training you need. And then when they're standing in front of the door, you just pop them through that glass. All right. Liability. This was the easy one. Districts in the state and in your county already have insurance policies, whether you know it or not. They're there in the event of accidents involving students and staff. Look at the school sports programs for starters. If a kid gets hurt at a football game, they're covered. No questions asked. I was like, would a district rather have to go to court for a wrongful wounding or a possible collateral death? Or do you think they would rather have to stomach several dozen deaths because they didn't do anything? That's an easy question to answer. Psychological issues. Again, this is an optional opportunity for those of sound mind and good judgment to do what they probably normally do already every day. No one is forcing a teacher to arm themselves. They're just giving them the option to do so rather than being a defenseless target. If a teacher's against the idea of being in a building with other teachers being armed, well, that's an issue that we'll have to deal with. But in this world that we live in today, to think that, the possibility of someone doing this again or not doing this again because not in their building, that's naive. It can happen anywhere. I mean, Tac Daddy knows that better than anybody now. I was like, I feel safer, quote, I feel safer knowing that none of the faculty here is armed to possibly help stop an attacker rather than letting them pack heat and possibly stop any further bloodshed from an active shooter, said no teacher ever. The whole debate is frankly irritating to me because as soon as you stop making schools gun-free zones, a person wanting to make a message and a high body count is simply just going to go somewhere else. No mass shooter wants to walk into a building where they're going to get plugged around the first corner. They want defenseless sheep and no resistance. Asking one armed officer on campus to protect 4,000 students and faculty is numerically impossible. You see, I didn't say it was retarded. I chose my words carefully. It is numerically impossible. And then I mentioned Tac Daddy. I was like, I have a cohort who has 2 daughters that went to that school, and would you like to hazard a guess what their take on this debate is? Mass killings happen in gun-free zones because they are literally all-you-can-eat buffets to criminals. This is less about arming the individual teachers, and it's more about setting the precedent that a school is no longer a vulnerable little gun-free zone that a monster can prey upon. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to leave you with a final question. 40 years ago, high school parking lots all over the country had trucks in the parking lots with rifle racks that had shotguns and rifles on them, and school shootings were almost non-existent. What changed? You need to stop blaming the tool and start blaming the wielder and start changing the policies that scare off would-be attackers and give the people a fighting chance against their aggressor. No law will ever stop a determined criminal. We tried that already by making murder illegal, and look where that got us. That's it. That's what I wrote him.
Wow.
Did he respond?
I got some responses. It's a couple of back and forths. Like, one of his responses was, I think it's more about asking a teacher, someone who's been dedicated to children for the entirety of their career, to look down the sights at a child to end that child. I guess that's
Can I give my response?
Yeah.
Okay. His version is asking a teacher who is dedicated to children their entire life to sit there and watch 30 of them get slaughtered in front of their face with nothing they can do about it.
Good point.
I would way more likely to kill a jerk than to watch the whole classroom of innocent ones get hit.
And that child will shoot that teacher in a heartbeat and not even blink about it.
Good point. So my response to him was, quote, "It was them or me is the last thought that crosses your mind in a life or death situation. If you hesitate at that moment, you die." I said, I'm not discounting what you're saying. Quite the opposite, really. But there's some level of survival instinct that will take over. No, I had to click read more. I said, but there is some level of survival instinct that takes over when it's you personally staring down the wrong end of that situation. Teachers are parents too, and if it were their own personal children in that classroom with them, there would be no second guessing. I went to a school where there was a teacher, her name was Miss French, and her son Gary French was in that classroom, and I guarantee you if there was an active shooter at the door, she wouldn't hesitate for a split second because her boy was right there in the front row with me. There's no way they would second guess that.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's it. Like I said, that's bringing in the emotion from the other side, right? Because the antis like doing the emotion thing.
Right.
Sure.
And that's what they're trying to get at is, oh, you can't kill someone even if they're a bad guy. Well, you sure can if they're hurting someone you love. And trust me, my mom's a teacher, and if something happened in her classroom full of kids, now she's not really a gun person. That's kind of a bummer, but I guarantee she'd throw a stapler at the guy's head. You know, she'd do something. She definitely would be the type of person that would throw herself in front of the kid. Like
Now-
she'd take the bullets before she let the little kid take the bullet.
Now,
Right.
Travis, we
Yeah,
know
man.
that not all teachers are parents, but a lot of them are themselves.
Yeah.
But Travis, you know, in this situation, think of it one of those kids was your wife or your dog or your cat, whichever the one you love most. Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm there to protect the kids, and if there's another kid that's trying to do harm to the other kids, you've got to stop the kid that's doing harm. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. Like you said, you care about the kids, but you don't want to see 30 of them get mowed down in front of you. So unfortunately, you'd have to make a decision to possibly end a life, and that's just, again, it is a life or death decision, and that's
And it's a hard decision. It's an instantaneous, difficult decision.
yeah.
And none of us on here ever wanted to get to that point where we have
No.
to.
Right.
But-
See, the whole
But
thing
if-
is
but if it does come up,
We're prepared.
every one of us are going to step up and do what we got to do.
right. The whole thing is people, we live in a world now where you need to prepare for a situation that you hope you never have to face. But
Mhm.
to think that you shouldn't prepare for it is frankly naive. We live in a world where people use guns, where they use bombs, they use rental trucks. You cannot just go through the world with rose-colored glasses anymore.
And
Not
they use
unless you
pressure
live in the middle
cookers.
of nowhere where you have no neighbors and it's just
Well,
you.
But my whole thing is, dude, they teach the teachers how to use a fire extinguisher. They teach the teachers CPR. They teach them what to do if someone's having an allergic reaction. Like,
Right.
they teach them all that kind of stuff. And that's one of the things, I forget who it is. Is it the Buckeye training, firearm training, or somebody started a school training thing. I thought it was someone from Ohio, unfortunately, because I can't stand this state. But whatever, they're doing good work. And if I'm not mistaken, as far as the financial part of training, I think they give the training to the schools for free, and they get other people to support them because they like what they're doing. I don't quote me that on exactly, but it's something like that. And or maybe it's like super cheap or whatever, and they do the whole school at once. But here's the thing. My whole point of it is the curriculum is, yes, kind of how to deal with an active shooter. But secondly, and I think almost more importantly, is the medical training of like having a trauma kit. Like there's no reason when people talk about how can we like mitigate the losses or how can we solve this, trust me, I agree. Armed teachers, or even just the threat of armed teacher, that would go a great step. I completely agree. However, I also think, and I'm not one to say everyone needs 20 armed security guards and stuff. I don't like the idea of the schools being like a freaking prison. I just don't. Whatever.
Militarized.
It is what it is. Yeah. But that's, to me, I don't like, and Republicans tend to come out first thing. They're like, we protect the president with guns. We should protect our kids. I get it. And maybe not. But I just think that's, I don't know. I don't like that idea. Maybe it is a solution. It's not one of my favorites. But there's no reason, hang on, just real quick. There's no reason why every single classroom should not have a set of like trauma kit, some tourniquets and some bandages and the knowledge of how to use that, how to deal with a catastrophic injury.
Now, with that, as every school that I've gone to from pre-K all the way up to high school, they all had defibrillators, and I always thought it's great if you have a defib there for somebody who has like heart condition or something, or if an older teacher has like a heart attack or something. But what if, like, you know, they get seriously injured and they're bleeding like heavily? I mean, there's not many instances where that would happen in a school, but still, it would be something that you would certainly try to have available, because most of the schools that I went to were pretty huge buildings, and there's only one nurse's office, and the nurse's office medically is not.
It's stocked with Band-Aids, dude. Like it's I guarantee she doesn't have a tourniquet and a what do they call it, Israeli bandage and all the other stuff. Like,
yeah,
that stuff's not there.
I mean,
and there's no reason why that couldn't be in every single teacher's desk. A couple of them, 3 of them, 4 of them, 10 of them, whatever. I mean, maybe you get more from other places. Have more in one place. Have a couple in the classroom. You know, like.
Yeah, that program's called Faster Saves Lives. Faculty Administration, Safety Training, and Emergency Response.
Okay, but the thing is you guys are discovering trauma care after the fact. See, I'm trying to work up solutions that prevent people from even trying to enter the building.
I agree with you.
Here's what I say to arming, having like a veteran or somebody that is armed in the building. Have them like dress up like a janitor or something that they conceal carry. That way, it's not intimidating to the faculty and the students, but at the same time, have a sign up front that says, "Hey, we have armed faculty here. Don't basically your consequences of hostile actions will be met swiftly." And
there's one problem with that theory. Most schools these days already have one armed officer in every campus. Some more, but on average, like in my area, every school has one. To ask one armed person to be able to respond to a shooting event in a building of 4,000 people, students and staff, is numerically impossible. What I'm trying to do is not add people to the payroll. I'm trying to use the resources that are already there, which is zero cost.
But
because they will argue that point.
And with that argument that you wrote out, and you have everything that's there, that is definitely a large argument. Now, I work with people that you can't really stand around for too long, and my boss honestly hates guns, and he's very open about it, and I'm very open about my passion for firearms, and he's always like, he always almost tries to start stuff with me, because he knows that if I get into it with him,
so he can fire you.
Probably, but he always says like, "Oh well, if the kid didn't have an AR-15, that wouldn't have happened." And I'm like, "Well, that happened in a gun-free zone, so you're beat."
He could have had a Mini 14 and do just as much damage.
Yeah, and my quick example to that is quick and fast is like, hey, if we had somebody armed in the school, That way, you kill two birds with one stone. You have protection over the children, and at the same time, you don't infringe on other people's rights.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
See, and that's the whole point of. I don't know if I've been telling you people this, but in general, the listeners and the people here on the panel and the people at gun channels, everything I've discussed already, I put together in a bill that I proposed to my state governor, Greg Abbott. And I also sent it to Ted Cruz, my senator. And I sent it to Sean Hannity. And I sent it to Rush Limbaugh. And I sent it to Mark Levin. And what I sent them was a bill proposal called the Good Shepherd Act. And what that is teachers are the shepherds of your children. And I think that we should empower teachers to be able to protect them to their fullest capability. Because you have to remember something. Laws don't stop criminals. They never have, they never will. All laws are just a set of guidelines that society says this is what we tolerate. And that's all we use to cite what we're going to punish people by. They don't stop anything. The only job government has, they're not judge.
Wait,
they're
wait,
not
wait,
jury,
wait,
they're not
wait.
executioner.
Did you send it
There-
to Alex Jones?
No, of course
You-
not.
You need to send it to Alex Jones.
No.
Send
I
it
don't,
to Alex
I don't
Jones.
need somebody screaming this stuff out. That's why I didn't send it to him.
The
Look,
globalist.
listen, the purpose of government is
Build a
not
bear.
not to serve, not to put people in
The
jail.
lizard
That's
people.
not their job. The government's job is to serve the people. And the only effective way to serve the people is to empower them, not to neuter them. And that's what they're doing here. You need to empower the people with the things that are given to you by the Constitution. And that says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. You're going to give power to the shepherds. That's why I called it the Good Shepherd Act, because it rolls off the tongue beautifully. It's a great alliteration. It's a great mental picture. And I'm just waiting to hear people start to take it on. Because if they do, and they actually put this in my state, and we can prove that it works, if you can get 30 states to accept this, that's 2/3 of the nation. You get 2/3 of the nation to agree to something, you can turn it into federal law. That's how our Senate works.
So what Sean means is he's running for senator this year, and he's going to, run for president in 2020.
Sean,
He's got my vote.
this is kind of a far-reaching cry here, but is there any way that you can send that to Phil Murphy, the New Jersey State governor?
I will mass send this to any lawmaker as soon as I get a response
Or,
from mine.
Dude, Sean, you send it to him, and he can send it to his dude. Because
Well-
it definitely carries more weight coming from someone inside the state.
Right,
Mhm.
but I really don't want to spread this until I get a response. Because if I get this thing saying, now's not the time, this is tone deaf, then I know my timing is bad. Because my governor is extremely pro 2A, so I thought I have the best chance by sending it to my guy first.
Well, I agree with you.
Okay.
You're just hoarding all the good ideas to yourself. I see how it
No.
is.
I have a
Because I just made it public. Everyone has just heard it.
I have a question for you, people who know are more knowledgeable than I am. In my debate with a guy from Connecticut, I think I mentioned this earlier, we were having this discussion, and he goes, "Well, we banned AR, assault weapons, AR-15s in the state of Connecticut. Since we've done that, we haven't had a shooting in the school. How do I answer it?" I was stumped, to be honest with you.
How many did you have before you banned it?
Ah.
Good point.
Because that's the Australia argument where they're like, well, they had one and then they banned everything, and they went for everything. I mean, you can barely have a break open shotgun. I mean, you can, but you have to have a bunch of license and all this crap.
Hey, Sean,
But,
side chat.
But anyway, so and people use that example like, look, they haven't had a mass shooting since. Here's the thing. The one they had was like the first one they ever had. So how do you know that they wouldn't have had another one anyways? Like that one was the only one there was ever going to be anyways. So I would look into how many you had before versus after. And if you've only ever had one in the history of your state, then you solved the problem that didn't exist. Therefore, you didn't really solve the problem,
All right, we received a devil's advocate question, and I did receive this by several people that I've actually bounced this idea off of before, and the answer has always been the same. So I'm not going to name the guy's name just in case he doesn't want to get. I don't want him to get like
He posts
chastised.
on the YouTube side, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. Well, I just don't want to get him chastised.
Whatever, just read the thing.
The question was, what happens if a crazy student overpowers and takes the gun away from a teacher and uses it? The only negative idea he can come up with. All right, so the question is, how does that student know who's carrying? You see, the thing is we're not naming which teachers are carrying. We're not saying all teachers are carrying. We're saying teachers have the option to carry, because you don't know where all the mines are in a minefield. The element of surprise is what makes this work. Because if I walked up to a school, right, and I had evil on my mind, the first thing that's going to trigger me is, oh shit, there's a sign that says teachers are armed. I'm not going to walk in there because I don't know who's carrying and who isn't. The students aren't either.
Well, the student shouldn't know either, because
Exactly.
going through high school, we had a bunch of kids that talked about everything, and the teachers were usually pretty chill, and they would basically talk about their personal lives as well, which honestly I think is some form of violation. Don't quote me on that. If it isn't, let me know.
All I know
But,
is the element of
kids talk.
surprise is what makes this work. And putting the guard dog in front of the building in the form of signage works. It works. Like I said, mass shooters want mass kills. They want the path of least resistance, and a gun-free zone is that path. They're not going. If we take public schools off the list of gun-free zones, they're just going to move on to like Starbucks or something. And then when Starbucks gets sick of being the target of mass shootings, then maybe they'll adopt that program. And then it'll follow to every industry that's a gun-free zone eventually, because they'll say, well, shit, it worked for schools. Oh, look, it worked for Starbucks. Maybe we should adopt this. It has to start in the one place that matters right now. And the one place that matters is where your children are, because that's a very personal thing. And if you can protect those children and you can stop that venue of mass murder from ever happening again, or at least severely hampering it down to almost non-existence, then by all means you should do that, because not doing anything is just going to give us repeat performances. By doing something, what I'm proposing is the only thing government can actually do for the people. That is something that they can do by empowering the people. Taking stuff away from good guys like us, that's not doing squat to a criminal, because they never followed the law in the first place. Government's not going to stop them. It can only help us. That's what we elected them for. That's what their purpose is. That's only what their purpose is.
Just something I want to say about students in general. You're talking about the wrestling the teacher down and taking their gun. If a student is that angry, that unstable, I mean, chances are they're going to lash out violently in some other way anyway, whether it's grabbing a chair or using a pencil to stab or using something in the classroom. I mean, there's a lot of dangerous objects you can get in the classroom that could do just as much damage, not necessarily as a gun, but I mean, there's hard surfaces, you've got desks, you've got chairs, you've got scissors, all right? So I just think if a kid is that unstable in the classroom, people might pick up on it, and that kid is probably not going to be in that classroom. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. I mean, if I had a kid that was saying violent things or threatening or twitching or shaking or whatever, I mean, you can pick up on signs easily, or just not even responding. I'm probably going to have a chat with that kid, and then we're probably going to refer him to a counselor or the school psychologist to talk to him or her. I'm just saying, those are things you run into. Not that it couldn't happen, not that a kid couldn't be waiting for that moment to grab that gun because they know somebody's got that gun, but I don't know. I just think most kids in general would not even think about doing that just because of the ramifications of what's going to happen.
Okay, we got another comment out from the YouTube side. 2Live Moo is out there saying, I use a number 223 pencil. And you know what? 2Live Moo, I do too.
That's awesome. By the way, full disclosure, everything I've discussed tonight, like the tactics and what I thought, should be part of the Good Shepherd Act, I wrote all of that with 3 people in mind. Tack Daddy's 2 daughters and you, Travis, because you are an educator and you're a gun owner, which is why when I wrote this, I thought the first person that would go, yeah, would be you. That's
Well,
why I
no,
wrote it.
everything you said is, and I'm not just sucking up to you, I'm being honest. Everything that you said, every point you made when you were responding to that person in the chat, it was true. It's true. I mean, that is basically what it comes down to. You're using logic and makes sense. And I think the idea people need to understand is we're not talking about arming every single teacher with a gun. I mean, we've got teachers that forget to take attendance. I don't know if I necessarily want them packing heat, but I think that competent teachers with enough training. And, the one person I mentioned something about the costs and the training. Yeah, I looked at that Faster Save Lives. They've got grants that pay for the training. But what I would ask those people about, people complaining about the cost of arming the teacher, the cost of the training is, so you want to put a price on a kid's head. That's what you want to do. You want to put a price. I mean, we spend money in our district. You can get the money. You can get the funds. It's not hard to find the money if you need it. Districts can put money aside. They can allocate funds for training and outfitting teachers if they have to. I mean, you've got so many teachers out there that would be so dedicated to the cause anyway. They would probably pay for their own training and arm themselves if they knew they could get permission to carry in the classroom. I mean, we had this discussion at my parent-teacher conferences on Thursday last week, and we were talking with the superintendent. He goes, do you think we'd have any teachers willing to do any kind of a program for training? There's like two other guys that just stood up right next to me. One of them is ex-military, one is not. They said, we'll do it in a second. And we kind of had the conversation with other teachers like, well, yeah, we'll volunteer for the training. Now, doesn't say everybody's going to go through with it, but I'm just saying you've got dedicated teachers that are willing and able and want to do this. Why can't we just get this out here and get it going? Well, okay, part of the problem I run into in the state that I'm in is that you can't carry in the classroom unless you're in law enforcement or military. That's state law. So that's something that has to change. That's got to change.
Well, Travis, I got an idea for you.
Yeah, man.
Why don't you go start helping out your local sheriff and see if you can get deputized?
See, I was wondering about that. I didn't know if that would qualify or not. That'd be, technically, yeah. But I mean, I'd been reading about other schools that had arming their teachers, like Harold, Texas has been doing it for years, just seeing what they put their teachers through in the training. Mm-hmm. It's 24 hours of training, and you still have to be approved by the school board. You still have to pass all the classes. You have to pass all the exams, the tests, the background checks. I mean, you're scrutinized like you are when you get a teaching certificate. So no, Sean, I do appreciate it, because when I'm thinking about it, it's like that basically speaks to everything I need,
See, and the thing is,
by the way, we got another comment out there on the YouTube. Kalashnikov 108 is saying, Night Strike, tell Sean that he really has that bill down to the finest detail. He's really on the ball tonight.
Thanks.
Well, I thought you were going to read his other comment, which was he uses a number 7.62 pencil.
I use one too. I use both a 223, a 556, and a 762.
The one thing that we have to drive home is the point of, quote, training is not to make the teacher an operator. That's not the intent here.
Dude,
the
I already
point
am.
of training is simply to make the
No,
most
you are,
effect.
Travis.
Well, what we're trying to do
Yeah.
is we're trying to make the lockdown actually infinitely more effective. See, we always talk about things called force multipliers, right? Like you put something on your gun, like a light or a laser, and we call it force multipliers. What I'm trying to do is empower the teachers to make the lockdown itself have force multipliers, because now you've got multiple armed teachers who can help quell a situation and get the all clear a hell of a lot faster than one guy with one gun and one badge waiting for backup while kids are just dropping, because this guy decided to kick down a door and, have an all-you-can-eat buffet in a defenseless room of kids. So that's the force multiplier for the lockdown.
Right.
And that's where my point that I think actually would, hit home pretty good against, some liberals and stuff, since it's not talking about the guns or whatever. Although, like I said, I do agree with you. And there's never a silver bullet, right? There's always multiple things. So my whole thing is, how do we, mitigate damage? One would be it doesn't happen at all because they're scared of the teachers. Okay, great. That's an awesome one. One would be you mitigate it because it doesn't last as long because the teacher stopped them after, the first person was hit or whatever. And the other one would be there's not as many bad things that happen because the teachers have all that medical training and they have the tools, to use it. And I think by stressing that part of the training of listen, we'll kind of teach them how to lock their door and how to, whatever,
sit in a corner.
or how to use a gun if that's, we're talking about it. but we're also going to teach them how to use a tourniquet, and those are going to be in the classroom. And that's not scary at all to them. Anyone that disagrees with medical training for teachers is completely irrational. Because there's no point of not having that, and that's something we could do today.
No,
it
just means that they're Jehovah's Witness.
Well, wait a minute, Travis. When as a public educator yourself, don't they actually walk you through the basics of maybe how to handle a student that's having a seizure or something?
Yeah. There's a minimum amount that you do, and then you can also do the CPR training. We don't have like any advanced trauma training and stuff like that. There's seizures, there's allergic reactions, there's asthma attacks, nosebleeds. There's a whole series of training that you go through every year. And then we have online training that we have to do to keep up with the information every year also. But you do have the hands-on training and the instruction from the nurses. But I mean, something more advanced for dealing with a gunshot wound or a laceration or excessive bleeding, you know.
As extremely unlikely as that is, and I do want to point that out there, we do get sucked into, I think, a little bit of a trap because it's on everyone's mind, and it's super sad and it's super scary and it's, you know, all that stuff. But there's something to remember. These things are extremely unlikely. And if every single school in the entire country has a tourniquet, every single school minus one are still going to have the tourniquets next year. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to happen that often. And that's something also to keep in mind. That
you're talking about the supplies.
You know, it's like winning the lottery. Someone wins the lottery, only one person wins. You know, so to that person, it seems like super likely. But to everyone else who played, you know, it's a complete waste of money.
All I have to say is...
Shall not be infringed.
There we go.
There you go.
I agree, G-Webs. Unfortunately, that argument rarely holds water when talking... When people are like, I'm just trying to have an open, honest debate. And then you start talking to them. If you say that, they've turned their brain off. And although I don't think they actually want an open, honest debate, they just want to ban all guns. I'm really liking my whole medical thing that I brought up earlier.
That is,
and I know I didn't invent it, but like I think that's a really good point to bring up. Be like, okay, let's talk openly and honestly. Tomorrow, we're going to teach every single teacher how to use a tourniquet, and we're going to give them one in the classroom.
Yeah. That's expanding what's already there. That's a great idea.
Tell me why that's a bad idea. You cannot.
It's not. I think it's a great idea. There's already mandatory training we do anyway. It would be
on teacher in service days and things.
Not the end of the world. Yeah.
All right, guys. So I have something else to talk about before we start wrapping this up. So are we done with this? Have we killed it with fire? Have we shot?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we solved all of the world's problems.
We have solved this.
Okay, we solved this one. So let's move on to the next one. For those of you that are going and do know, there is a gun show that is happening in April 7th and 8th. It is the world's largest gun show. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
The one I can't afford to go to.
And I am starting an Indiegogo campaign to go and try and get to Tulsa. So I posted some links out there on the gun channels on the YouTube side. I've posted, it's already up on Facebook and Twitter. I'll probably do a thing on Instagram too for any of the Instagram peeps interested. But I need some help with this. I do have rewards. So if anybody does want to help out and does want to help me get to Tulsa, I'm going to do a couple things for the campaign. You know, while I'm at Tulsa, I'm going to go and take video footage and pictures of the J.M. Davis Firearms Museum. I'm going to try and take pictures and photos and videos of everything at Tulsa. We'll see if that happens or not. If I can get this campaign funded, then I'm going and doing it. If I can't, I'll try and see what I can do, where it means Night Strike takes a bus instead of flies, and he has to sleep, you know, in the lobby of a hotel or something. He'll do it.
Well, there you go.
I wish you luck with that, man.
That sounds honestly like a good thing, and you know, especially if it only costs everyone like a couple bucks. I mean, that's the beauty of like the
crowdfunding, essentially.
Yeah, crowdfunding. I couldn't think of the word. Thanks, Sean. Is that you don't have to have one dude give you a gazillion dollars. You have a gazillion people give you $1. And it's
or
the same,
$5 or $20. You know, there's many different variations. And the thing about Indiegogo is you don't just have to give what's already there as far as perks. You can also always just set an amount and just give it as well. So there's that out there too. So anybody that can help out, I would greatly appreciate it, because I have no idea, but I need help, guys. So if you guys want to see some better quality videos and some actual produced content, please help. If not, then we'll just continue doing this as usual, and shall not be infringed.
Sounds good.
I think you had a really good show tonight for a I didn't have a topic.
Yeah, and considering those people ran right alongside you as well.
Let's see. We had a really good show tonight, and Smeggy's back.
Yeah,
Just saying,
that
those
can't
are
be a
two facts
coincidence.
that exist at the same time. Just saying.
That cannot be a coincidence.
And that's not a coincidence, but again, there's that out there. Also, if the link does not work on the YouTube side, just go to nightstrike.com. That's NIGHTSTRYKE.com. And I've got a link for the Indiegogo campaign up there too.
Night Strike spelled stupidly.
Yes.
No, stupidly would have been with 2 Ys. 1 Y is socially acceptable.
Yes.
1 Y is tactical. 1 Y is tactical.
1 Y is tactical, but if I did it NYGHTSTRYKE, it would have been retarded.
For those of you who donate to Night Strike's Indiegogo campaign, I'm sure there's like a comment or memo section. Make sure that when you send your donations that you put in the notes, I'm only donating so you have to force Ellie Mae Ellis Hatfield to sing karaoke with him.
Ellis isn't going.
I thought he was going too.
No, this is just for me. It's not for Ellis.
No, he said he was going to go too.
He said he's not going to. He's putting guns on layaway, so I assume he's decided not going.
Priorities, man. I'll tell you what. Jeez.
Well, he's got to get that.
To have an opportunity to hang out with some of these people, that's worth the price of a Maverick 88. Come on. Jeez. Definitely. Worth the price of 2.
Should I show them my toy before we leave for the night?
Well, yeah. Last
talking about guns. Woohoo!
All right. We're going to end with a little gun porn, just for you guys.
And Scott Pacini mentioned Night Strike will buy himself a couple of new guns if he can't get the Tulsa. No, if I could get at least half of what I've got, what my goal is up there, I can probably make it to Tulsa. I won't be sleeping, but yeah, I'll be able to at least get there probably.
My girl calls this the Higgins, by the way.
The Higgins.
Anyway, so before we leave, just thought I'd give you a little gun porn because my DeSantis holster finally showed up. Took 3 days to break in. Inside is... Ta-da!
Looks like you're holding a bat. Oh, okay, there it is. The camera froze up. Very nice.
Yes. Now I just have to wait 3 more years for the H10.
Have you taken it to the range and shot it yet or not?
No, because I was the victim of identity theft on Saturday and all my bank accounts and cards got frozen.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'd rather have the H45.
This is completely unrelated, but I just wanted to let you guys know, as of this Saturday, I'm going by Sean now. Just
Hey? Oh. Took me a minute.
Hey, Smeggy, you got those uppers ordered for me that we talked about, right? Is that?
Yeah, they're on their way.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man.
This is what I get for solving our problems.
Monterey gets owned.
Oh, come on. We can't. I'm surprised this group stayed serious this long. I mean, we got to have a little bit of fun here. It's hit or miss.
Yeah, man.
Tuesday night, 9 o'clock.
Tuesday night, 9 o'clock. I said that the other day. I was in a restaurant.
Yeah.
I was in a restaurant and the waitress said hit or miss. And I just went Tuesday night, 9 o'clock. And she looked at me funny. And I was just like, don't worry about it.
It's like, sorry. It's just
I say that in my videos all the time, too.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. But it's a complete tick now. It's not even a joke anymore. It's just OCD tick.
Yep.
All
Well, anyway, let's wrap this up here. Does anyone else have some stuff to plug or say?
Rick, you
Thanks.
first.
Thanks for the invite. And my show tomorrow night, Shooting with Disabilities, 7 p.m. Eastern.
All right, Sean.
Oh, man, I think I've talked too much today.
Yeah, you have. Maggie.
I guess check out Daily Gun Show every night at midnight if you want to watch it live, or just watch it after the fact at Daily Gun Show.
All right, Travis.
All right, man. Same old, same old. Check me out at Caliber Corner, and anybody else who wants to join in Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Central Time, and check out my channel, Travis P11. And I'm also over on VidMe. My channel is Travis P11 over there too.
I thought Vimeo didn't exist anymore.
It doesn't. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay. Yeah, I got something from the chat here. This is a great shout out. I'll use it. Jumpy Killer says it. Join the GOA. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I would also suggest joining the Second Amendment Foundation. I really like them a lot.
Right on.
I actually like them a little bit better than GOA, but whatever. They're not as vocal, but I think they still do good work. And if not, join your state stuff. I mean, everyone can complain we got stabbed in the back by the NRA. I kind of think we did too. But put your money where your mouth is and give it to someone who won't stab you in the back. And if your state doesn't have one, start one.
All right. I'm just going to mention this right now. I got one of the guys out there on the YouTube side already has just actually gone and jumped in and been the first guy to give us help me out on my way to Tulsa. So I want to thank Casino Boss out there for helping me out.
It's because we answered his question.
Anyways,
he had some good comments earlier too. I like
awesome.
Casino Boss.
So Casino Boss, I'm going to do a shout out video tomorrow for you, and I'll get some postcards sent out to you.
Well, I'm putting you
we
up
all
on
have
Facebook
channels.
and Twitter, so there you go.
Has he been drinking?
No.
Nice.
Guy gave you money.
No,
So he's going to wake up in the morning and cancel his credit card?
Oh, all right. I mean, thanks, guys. Thanks for being so supportive.
Hey, I'm putting you up on Facebook, man. Come on.
Hey, I didn't even plug my own channel because I just wanted to let everyone else do theirs.
So, but anyways, I appreciate it, and those out there listening on the YouTube side.
Oh, I have a quick question. You can answer, Night Strike.
Okay.
It's got nothing to do with guns or this. Why is the lobby leaving? On gun channel.
Oh, that's not a time or a place for this question.
That is
So
not a
let's
time or
look
place
this
for this question. That is a time or place off air in a private chat, or that is a question for G-Web.
Yeah, enough said.
So,
Okay.
with that, on that note,
All right.
thank you all for listening on the YouTube side, on the gun channel side. Thank you all for listening.
This was.
Hold on. I appreciate everyone that has put up with us so far this evening. I hope to see you all next week. Thank you all for listening. This was Hit or Miss.
Shut up, Ian Prince.
Adios, Felicia. Adios, mi amor.
What is it?
Ay, Maria.
Hasta la vista, baby.